Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Crawley United.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Crawley United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
In this episode we've got lots to pack in as United made it 3 wins and 3 clean sheets in a row at the weekend. We review the 2-0 win over Bradford City at Brunton Park, while looking ahead to back-to-back home games for the Blues against Crawley Town and Hartlepool United. I tell you what, Dan.
Fitted in nicely, that one.
I know, was it? The buzz is back. Oh. We're all excited, aren't we? Hey?
Tell me.
What a run we're going on at the moment, the Blues. It's incredible, isn't it? The turnaround in fortunes of the last month or so, isn't it, really, compared to, I suppose, the feeling at the end of October. It was all doom and gloom, wasn't it? And now...
Yeah, compared to, say, sort of Sutton away, etc., you know.
I mean, that was really was a low point in this campaign, wasn't it?
I'd say Sutton and Northampton were the 2 low points. And Northampton wasn't really Keith Millen's fault, was it? He'd hardly been in. No, and he's managed to turn things around since then, and as we'll touch on in a sec. But the fact that he's managed to do it with largely the players that are already here, particularly in terms of defence, is really a testament to his coaching abilities, I guess. So there you go. Well, let's get into the news section then, Dan. A few little bits to fit in this week. A little bit of transfer news that we couldn't quite get in last week because... the club decided to announce it a couple of hours after we recorded, but there you go. First couple of bits just about the rearranged fixtures, the ones that were postponed over Christmas. So 2 new dates have been confirmed for these games, Dan. Salford away is now going to take place on Tuesday the 1st of February with a 7:45pm kickoff. And the Rochdale home game, the Boxing Day game, is now going to take place on Tuesday the 1st of March with a 7:45pm kickoff. That'll be all our games caught up, won't it? Because we've had Bradford... Yeah. We've got Hartlepool next week, as we're going to talk about later, and then,
so it's all done quite nicely. I think that Rochdale one, you might look at it, that's a bit far out from when the game originally was. I think it's because they don't want it to be too close to the Rochdale away game, basically, isn't it?
It makes sense.
A little bit of distance between the 2 games, I think is the best way to do it. I mean, you look back in the day, I was looking at this the other day, like 94-95 season, I'm pretty sure we played Wigan on the opening day, and then we played them again in October, didn't we? It was weird how they used to do it back then. They never used to split it down the middle.
Even in recent years, you know, you try and play every team once and then play them again. But there was one recently where I think we played the 23rd game around Christmas time, and whoever it was, we played them 5 weeks later.
I mean, obviously Leighton Orient last season as well. They at one point it was looking like we might end up playing them at home on the Tuesday and away on the Saturday because it got called off that many times, but. Never quite happened. But yeah, nice to get those sorted. And
I wonder as well, I've not checked 100%. There is obviously scheduled midweek games anyway in February and March.
February the 8th, I think against Port Vale, the home game.
And possibly the 8th of March as well.
I'm pretty sure there's one on there.
But I think they've done it so they maybe have a couple of weeks where there is midweeks and then maybe have a week off, you know, for... recovery and injuries and whatnot. So.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it, isn't it, I suppose? Yeah. Well, let's get on to the transfer news then, Dan. And the one that, we weren't convinced this one was true, me and Mike, last week. We all were a bit like, I'm not sure about this. Really.
I'm just going to tell our lovely listeners that I did tell them it would happen.
You'd heard whispers, hadn't you, to be fair? Yeah. There was just something about it didn't quite sit right, didn't it? But there you go. Shows we can be wrong on this programme, you know. It does happen. Just hours after we finished recording last week, United confirmed that forward Amari Patrick had returned to Brunton Park on a permanent transfer from Burton Albion, signing an 18-month deal with the club. I mean, that's a bit surprised us, because I think a lot of people are going to be back on loan maybe for the rest of the season. Yeah, to get him back permanently, it's a brilliant bit of business, really. All things could. It's almost like he's had a 6-month loan in League One just to see how he does up there, and then he's come back, and signed the deal anyway. So brilliant to get him back. It didn't go too well for him at Burton, so he'll have a bit of fire in his belly, point to prove, which he showed perfectly on Saturday. Yeah, 12 appearances. Didn't manage to get on the score sheet, unfortunately, for him. I think a lot of them were sub-appearances, though, so I think you've probably got to be fair. And then I think he was played as a striker, actually, a lot early on for them, and he didn't quite work out. But as we saw at the weekend, it could be an option for him in the long term, potentially, for us. It could be a way he plays But yeah, I think we're pretty happy with that one, aren't we, Dan? I think it's fair to say it's one of these ones.
Yeah.
When you talk about players coming back, people get a bit excited sometimes. And some of them you think, that's never going to work. Don't even think about it. But this one, you're always looking for, actually, you know what? It makes sense. It really does make sense. And I think as much as anything...
It's give us options.
Give us options. And he's a good character.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and he's obviously well liked. You could tell that from the sort of social, not just from fans, but from players and people at the club. But like I've just said, in terms of, the ability to switch formation mid-game, because we've been fairly sort of set 4-4-2 recently, Gibson and Dickinson wide. We can go 4-3-3 now, which maybe doesn't suit Dickinson as much, but it would suit Patrick, because we all know he can play wide in a free. There's just it's good to have options. We can bring him out if he's on the bench. We could bring him for say Dickinson, and then switch from 4-4-2 to 4-3-3. It just opens up a few things in terms of how Keith Millen utilises the squad.
Yeah, and like I said, I just don't think it can be underestimated how having a good person who's so positive and upbeat like him in the dressing room will help things as well. And like I said, all the players seem to get on really well with him. Even Jordan Gibson seemed to be excited to link up with him again because they were obviously together at Bradford for a bit, weren't they? So yeah, fantastic news to get Amari back in the in Brunton Park. Should we talk about some of the rumours? I mean, it's not rumours so much this one actually. First up, obviously, Brandon Comley has left after his trial spell. Probably not that much of a surprise, this one, because we're quite well stocked in midfield at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. Guys come back into form. Riley's back to fitness just about. We've got Whelan has sort of morphed into a defensive midfielder. We've got Divine as backup. We've got Charters, even Dixon. So it wasn't the biggest surprise. I mean, who's to say it maybe wouldn't be revisited in future, if Guy moved on or Whelan departed, But I think Keith Millen's fair in saying that, we don't want to keep him hanging on. The lads got to go and get some football somewhere. So
yeah, absolutely. That's the best way to do it, isn't it, really? So good luck to Brandon in finding himself a new club. Let's talk about some of the rumours that have been going around the last week or so, Dan. Some interesting ones.
Some are a bit...
Some of them are a bit wild, but one of them's been, it's been going around, and whether it's not happened yet or not, but should we talk about that one first? Should we talk about the loan ones that haven't happened, basically? We know aren't happening. Let's talk about them first. So,
we do the loan ones. Yeah.
So basically, I've only put one of them in, but I think we remember the other one. Two lads from Rangers that we were linked with loan moves to, weren't we? Obviously, Josh McPake and Stephen Kelly. McPake being a winger attacker, really, isn't it, I think? And Kelly being a central midfielder. Both rumored to be coming on loan for the rest of the season. Neither of them happened. So McPake's gone to Tranmere to the end of the campaign. And Kelly has signed for Salford, hasn't he? I think for the next 6 months. So
McPake was at Harrogate last season, played well, and he went to Morecambe this season, but he hasn't really played much. So
And did we really need Kelly? That was probably the question with that one, I guess. So we move on. Let's talk then about the big one, Dan. Dan being the operative word there. Danny Graham. This is an interesting one. I'm pretty sure it's not happening, but it seemed to come out of nowhere. And a lot of people were saying it, weren't they? It was a bit like, oh, that's a strange one.
A good mate of mine was at Sedgefield Races just before Christmas. And he saw Graham Cavanagh there, and I think Danny Graham was there.
Yeah.
And he said there was more chance of Danny Graham competing in the Grand National than playing football.
Yeah.
So make of that comment what you will.
Fair dues,
but I think what he was suggesting was he didn't look fit for football.
Interesting, because there's a lot of talk that apparently he did a bit of pre-season with Darlington, didn't he? And he's been keeping himself ticking over. But I mean, there's a difference between ticking over and playing match football, isn't there? It's one of those things. Maybe he's someone you get to come in and just do a bit of coaching with Sam Fishburne or something like that. That would make sense.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one, isn't it? There's a few names swirling around as well. There's another one we've heard about. We won't mention it right now because it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think we're both that would be quite the move. So you can all try and guess who that is, but yeah.
We've got to tell them next week.
Maybe we'll tell them next week. If it doesn't happen, we'll tell them.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is we'll tell them what we heard.
Yes.
It's not been on Twitter or anything that I'm aware of, or it certainly hadn't been last time I looked.
Yes.
And it may possibly be more for the summer if it was to happen. That's a big if, but...
Big if, yes, big if.
We'll see.
Yes. Last bit of news then, Dan, because we haven't got any more rumours to cover. I think we've covered all the players we've been rumoured linked to now, I think. Can't think of anyone else. Yeah. It's the club have announced that 5 of the academy youngsters are set to step up to the under-18 side next season. So it's going to be...
Always good to hear.
It is really good, isn't it? Jake Allen, Aaron Fitzpatrick, Sam Hetherington, Romeo Park and Robbie Swinburne. We surely have not had a Romeo play for Cal United before. You'd think, wouldn't you?
Don't think so.
I can imagine some good chance coming out of that, can't you? Possibly, potentially in the future. But
if he becomes a pro and scores, we could pay Romeo by Basement Jacks.
Yeah, good shout, though. Good shout. Yes, that's 5 up for the thing next season. So they'll probably need about 3 or 4 more coming from who've been let go by big academies, I guess.
There's normally, I think they normally aim for about 8 each intake, don't they? So they usually have someone keeping an eye over the North East. As you often find, you'll get one from Newcastle, one from Sunderland type thing.
You sometimes get some from the North East leagues as well, don't you? The youth leagues, not even like Sam Fishburne was never at academy, and Mark Beck was the same as well. He wasn't actually in an academy. He was just picked up from
which shows football. How competitive it is in the North East, Oh,
absolutely. It's people just don't realise how big a place it is in terms of producing players. I mean, we saw. I think who was it the other day? Someone, I think it was Michael Bridges, had gone back to Wallsend Boys Club, hadn't he, to do a feature for the Premier League TV stuff. And there's a board there up with all the different lads who've been at Wallsend Boys Club and have gone on to play professional football.
It's some list, wasn't it?
It's some list, and about 8 or 9 of them have played for Cal United. At that time as well, like obviously Beardsley, Mick Tate,
similar number had played for England as well, hadn't they?
Yeah, this is quite incredible actually. When you look back at it. But there you go. So that's the news done for this week then, Dan. Let's get on to the bit we've all been looking forward to, the match review. So yes, United put on their best display of the season. They've run out fairly comfortable winners over the Bantams at Brunton Park, 2-0. It's now 3 consecutive wins and clean sheets for the Blues. They haven't conceded a goal in 5 hours and 54 minutes of action. And as John Coleman put in his one of his columns this week, if they keep a clean sheet against Crawley, that will be our best run for, was it 13 years or something like that?
2008, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe about 14 years, just under 14
and a half, 13 to 14, depending what date it was. But.
Which fantastic, really. You can't argue that, can you? I mean, just coming out of Brunton Park on Saturday, you just felt more positive, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, it was quite funny because in the run-up to Saturday, you text a couple of people, you go into the match, blah, 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 WhatsApp groups, blah, blah, blah. And there was actually a little buzz, I thought. There was people like, a couple of folk texting, you got the match Saturday, I'm looking forward to it, They're bringing a few, we've got a couple of signings, we've won a couple, and I was like, whoa, I haven't had this season yet, and... Yeah.
Do you think it's maybe no home game for a month as well help with that as
well? Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a little slurry of them now, haven't we?
3 in a row.
4 in 5. And it was, it was looked forward to it, and bloody hell, we enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fantastic, wasn't it? I mean, we'll get straight into talking about the goals first, because generally we'll talk about how good a defensive display it was, because it was fantastic, it really was. But let's talk about the details, the goals from the game, and the celebrations, of course, as well. We're going to talk about them. First up, on the stroke of half-time, Jordan Gibson. I mean, what a strike this was. I mean, you'll have had as good a view as me, because I stand, for anyone who doesn't know, I stand in the paddock, just sort of at the top of the tunnel.
On the same angle towards the goal line and the base.
You're a little bit higher up, aren't you? So, he seemed desperate to impress, didn't he, Jordan Gibson? Yeah. Bless him. He really wants to prove a point. And in first half, he was on the right wing and we were attacking the waterworks. Yeah. So he was going down the wing where all the Bradford fans were. And it was getting a bit of stick, as was his dad, if anyone heard some of the chants on Saturday. And he was clearly desperate to impress. And he was maybe trying a little bit too hard sometimes. There's a few times you're like, you don't need to be taking a shot there, just play the pass or whatever. And I think Millen was quite clever and he said, right, let's just switch him over to the left for a little bit and put Brennan down on the right. And it worked a treat. And he started linking up quite well with Jack Armour. And then Armour was the one who set up the goal. And I think he had another good game.
First of all, the crossfield pass was...
you know what? I have not even put that in the description.
How dare you?
I know. that was like the Callum Guy of last season, wasn't it? Spraying it about.
That crossfield pass was very reminiscent of the Danny Granger 50 yards
100%,
that he used to fire,
100%.
that he used to set an attack off. And Armour just obviously touches it to Gibson. And when he cut inside, he sort of took one sort of shimmy, and when he didn't shoot straight away, there was a little bit of a groan from a couple of folk near me. As I say, and then he sort of took a step again, unleashed, and chaos ensued.
He's good at those ones at the end of the edge of those, and he's got a great strike on him from distance. It's nice to have a player who can do that again, because we've not had that for a few seasons really in that sense. I know Patrick scored a long range. We've had a couple of ones, but we've not had a player who very much specialises in that. Probably since Jamie Devitt, have we really? Who's not afraid to have a dig from distance and knows they're going to hit the target.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference. So, like you said, he did that lovely little shimmy in. Credit to Armour as well, because he's been slinging the ball into the box for a lot of crosses early on, and he could have done exactly the same again. But what he did is he spotted Gibson on the edge of the box and just played a pass to him, basically.
Yeah.
And he controlled Guy's crossfield ball brilliantly as well in the build-up there. And like you said, what a strike from Gibson, and nice to see him go over and show his name to the Bradford fans. He was just
celebrating with his teammates at the edge of the box.
He was there. It wasn't right on the touchline, so there's nothing wrong with it. No. That's why I didn't get any trouble. So fantastic. And it really sort of took a little bit of the wind out of the sails for Bradford, didn't it? Because they had a goal disallowed maybe about 5 minutes before.
It was a perfect time to score, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Because
bang on half time almost.
We were just getting our tails up a little bit after that goal disallowed. I mean, interestingly, Bradford seemed a bit upset about it, saying it was a bit of a soft foul for the goal. But actually, when you look back, it's an offside, basically.
Yeah.
And actually, the linesman misses another offside in the build-up because Alex
the linesman
went off the
was
pitch.
Atrocious on our side.
Oh, he was appalling.
As we will talk about in a second for another decision.
Oh, he was just dreadful. So, I mean, essentially, in the build-up to that goal, Songo, what do you call him? Yeah, Songo was... I mean, to be honest, he probably could have given it as a foul anyway, but he was offside when he went and challenged for the ball with Howard. But actually, before that, Gilead had gone off the pitch and then came to collect the pass from off the pitch. So he had to be flagged offside. But for some reason, the linesman completely missed it. So should have been 2 offsides in the build-up, essentially, but there you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the other goal then, Dan. Let's talk
about the disallowed one just before.
Oh, go on, yes.
Yeah.
Right, you know what? Fair play, you'll have a go at the lines about this. When I saw it in real time, I turned to Mike and I said, I think he was a yard off. I think he was a yard just off. It was...
Well, the B stand begs to disagree with the paddock on this because from our loftier vantage point, we were like, that wasn't offside.
I think it's one of those ones, if it had been in the Premier League, VAR would have been looking at it for a while because I think
he's
it's
his pace. It's his pace that's done it. Because as soon as the ball's gone, he's away. Yeah, I think, and obviously because he was so close to him, as soon as he gets that half yard, he looks offside. But there was a still kicking about, and he was onside. Yeah,
he's just onside, but he is onside. Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about his goal then this time though. Amari Patrick becoming one of 4 players, I think, as John Coleman pointed out this week, that have scored on their permanent return to Brunton Park. I did correct him on it, but then he pointed out he did say on permanent return. Yeah. And Joe Onions had been on loan in his first spell, so he doesn't actually count towards it, which was annoying because I thought he got him there. But
the thing about this goal as well was it literally came from nothing because the ball was just sort of halfway up our side, bit of tussle. It gets won, laid back to Armour, who just launches it, which...
Jack Armour gets an assist for that.
Of course he does. But the time on the clock, from the time on the clock, it was just 88th minute. You just get rid of it up the pitch. But what impressed about it was A, the way that Amari Patrick took it down under pressure. B, spun to get himself a little bit of space, and then C, basically put the afterburners on and outpaced his man, which give him the chance to shoot.
Well, the thing is, his touch and turn were in one motion. If you watch it, it's brilliant because he doesn't just take his first touch. His first touch puts it behind the defender and sets him away. It's a brilliant bit of play. It really is. And the fact that, he's just like up against the defender later on, it's like, right.
It's like he puts it off the side of his boot to spin round him almost, isn't it?
I mean, at the game, Mike said to me, Gibson's goal, that's got to be goal of the season so far. But after Patrick goes, I turned to him and says, could easily give that goal of the season now, just because of the
slight
play.
Disclaimer: we haven't had many good goals this season.
No, Gibson scored a few. To be fair, like he's had a few long range ones. He's
been having his own competition, hasn't
exactly.
he? Really?
So Mauri's thinking, right, I'll give him some competition now. But like I said, he was brilliant first touch. He doesn't get totally away from the defender, but what he does, he almost tempts the defender in, say, "Go on, make a tackle on me now, make a tackle on me." He never does. He basically puts him on his backside and coolly slots it away. And my mate Ian actually messaged me after the game. He said, "You know what? With the 2 1-on-1s that Mary Patrick had, I never thought he was going to miss them." And that's one thing with Patrick. You don't think he hasn't scored that many goals from us, but when he's 1-on-1, you'd back him to hit the target at the very least. That's a real creative. That's why I think he could do
one little thing we haven't mentioned there, just prior to the disallowed one, sort of from the hour mark for about 20 minutes, it was all us pretty much. You know, and it was a shame we scored so late, because where I sit, we were saying if we get the second here, we'll get a third, because these will be gone.
Yeah,
you know, and I think after getting the second, if there was another 5 or 10 minutes left in the game, we probably would have got a third, because they were gone.
I was really disappointed with Bradford. I expected a bit more from them. I thought it was going to be a tougher test.
Team.
They've got some quality in there, but I mean, Cook got that knock early on when he went for a challenge with Howard. He probably got a dead leg by the looks of it, and he tried to shake it off. But that was literally after about 2 minutes he got that dead leg, and they didn't take him off till was it 29 minutes, something like that?
Yeah. Well, he obviously wants to try and play on, doesn't he?
But giving him 25 minutes to try and play on, when I could have told you with 15 minutes gone, he's a passenger. And the worst thing that actually happened for us was a ball. I think McDonald played a bit of a loose pass, and Cook went and chased it. And I think that's when he was like, "Oh, damn, I can't carry on here."
Yeah.
And otherwise, he probably would have carried on till half time, so at least get through till then. And that's the point where he knew he had to come off. And that was a bit frustrating, because he gave them someone back into the game. But
they had another sub in the first half as well, which will have disrupted them a bit, you know.
Yeah, it's a very weird cycle. Like you said, that they should be doing a lot better than they are.
Yeah.
But I mean, Elliot Watt, obviously we mentioned last week, he's been linked with big clubs. I wouldn't sign him on that performance. I wouldn't have him in our team.
That'll have been Guy v. Watt, the best mates, and so Guy will have been well up for it.
Exactly that. Well, let's talk about some of the other talking points, Dan. Then let's start off with one of the other debutants in this game, Tyrese Omotoye. Probably fair to say expectations weren't too high for him on his debut in this game, but he certainly didn't look out of place. He caused problems to the Bantams backline, didn't he? I think he had a lively debut, I think is the way I'd describe it.
I think it was a bit biased giving him the man of the match, because there were several who were in the running. But
I've said that. To be fair, I've said this as well in the.
I think it was more of a confidence boost.
Yeah, I totally understand why they've done it. But for me, it's I could probably name 4, maybe even 5 players I would have picked ahead of man of the match. And that's not saying he's played bad. I just think those players had brilliant games, and it's fair play to giving the lad a bit of a boost. Little bit quiet first half, I think he was. He looked maybe just feeling his way into the game. He's not played much.
You know, he hasn't played much at Orient. It's a step up from under 23 football. Just seeing what the lie of the land was. But as we've said, you know, the Carlisle fan base, if you try, you'll get supported, and he tries. You know.
Oh yeah, he certainly worked hard. And that run he went on in the second half, because we didn't really see it the first half. We didn't see any burning pace from him, and then suddenly he picked up the ball. And I think it helped that he was on the east stand side and he was right in front of those fans, and you could just hear the fans really getting excited and really getting behind him. And he left the defender for dead, didn't he? Basically, and he got right into the box and managed to win a corner, I think, from it. I seem to remember.
I'll tell you what I can see happening as well. Once game, you know, imagine him playing full pelt for 65, 70. And then unleashing the fish for the last 20, he'll be full of running.
That's whether the fish stays and where that's the question.
We're going to mention that later. We think that some of the younger lads maybe need a loan for a bit of football, or any other striker, you know.
It could make a difference, couldn't it? But fair play to the lad. I'm sure he'll probably keep his place this weekend as well. Let's talk about the enigma's probably not even the right word. The wonder. Big John Mellish, he plays where he wants. I mean, never ever write this man off, do you?
He's just like a road runner, isn't he?
It's just incredible. I mean, is it probably fair to say there was a bit of a feeling among some of our fans recently that maybe they were looking and thinking, last season was a flash in the pan for him? He could only really fit in one midfield system that the Beach had essentially built around him and the way he plays. And I mean, he's not quite caught the headline this season, but I think he's been quietly effective when he played in the midfield too. Not as effective as obviously he was last season, but he's done an okay job in those games. But his performance in his new striker berth at the weekend, he was fantastic, wasn't he?
Left back to centre back to defensive midfielder to attacking midfielder to striker.
It's just make him play a manager. Just get it over and done with.
You can imagine on Football Manager, when there's like descriptions for positions, and you go on the map and they have dots where they play. There'll just be a dot on every part of the pitch. I was going to say you're the man who does the. I
am, yes. I'm going to have a word and say, can I make him a player who plays all the way and well in all those positions?
Yeah,
because
just all the way through the middle.
Oh, I mean, he's running
in green and then yellow. Yeah,
his running was just incredible there, wasn't it? The amount of ground he covered, and there was one point I think where he lost the ball and he went back and he basically put a slide tackling to concede a corner back in his own half, and he must be an utter nightmare to defend against. He really must be. And I wonder, I might be getting ahead of ourselves here, but he could really offer a good partnership with Patrick, because he can do all the hard running and chasing down and win the ball. And if he can just finesse his passing a little bit, he could really set Patrick away on some of those runs, couldn't he? I think there's something interesting to look at there, possibly. But yeah, well done, John. Another great game from him. Again, someone who could easily have got man of the match, I think, for this game, the way he played. But the big thing we've got to talk about, Dan, is just how good we were defensively once again.
Yeah.
Outstanding. And we poured praise onto Rod McDonald last week, quite rightly. And this week, he was excellent at the back again. But for me, and this is your chance to do your told you so speech, Dan, standout man was Morgan Feeney. He was my man of the match.
He was excellent. I've as you just alluded to, I've always said a fit Morgan Feeney will be a class act. He's obviously got his fitness. He's getting a run in a team that's doing well. He's shown just exactly what he can be. He's
at the moment he's undroppable, isn't he? He's one of the first names on the team sheet, I think. Yeah. And like I said, he's slotting in nicely. He's no nonsense when he needs to be. But one thing him and McDonald do offer, actually, is they're both really good on the ball. And it goes a little bit underrated that the way that Millen wants us to play is playing out from the back when we can. But obviously, when we have to, lump it, get rid, as Armour did on the second goal. But we spread the ball so nicely across the back and we move it really quickly. And those two are a big part of that. And Feeney especially brought the ball out of defence really nicely a few times. And he used Gibson and Mellor down the right to really good effect, didn't he?
Definitely. You can tell he's played at high level at Everton, England under whatever it was. And, you can tell he's had the coaching. And I would like to see him get offered a better contract quickly.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see us at some point this month.
By the end of this month, tie him down to at least another year with an option or something.
How old is he? Is he
22, I think.
22 now? So, I mean, he's a young lad. And if he can prove his fitness...
He's only going to get better.
Exactly. He's worth every penny of keeping him. So, fantastic. The only thing I'll say is he needs to add some goals to his game because he's a physical, strong lad. He should be getting on a bit more in the set pieces.
That might come, I think.
Yeah, I hope it will, because obviously Rod's managed to get on the score sheet now, and a lot of our set piece at the moment, it's still one thing that does frustrate me about us at the moment. I don't think we're still doing enough on set pieces, and a lot of it seems to be based around Rod McDonald winning the first header. Essentially seems to be the plan. So we need to have something other than that really to work on. So there you go. Another defensive player we're going to talk about here, Dan, Kelvin Alves at right back, as he's going to be rechristened.
I'm going to interject, and I personally think, rightfully so, Mellor got lots of plaudits on Saturday, but I think Jack Armour didn't get as many, and I think both were equally as good.
I think the difference between the two is that Armour was very quietly effective, and he solid and did his job. He got about it, and as you say, he set up the 2 goals. Mellor was bringing out all the flicks and tricks, wasn't he? He did like the scissor, the old scissor chop thing, about 2 or 3 times in the second half, and you're like, what's going on here? Where's this player come from? I mean, we knew he was a good player. We know how effective he can be.
But is part of that because Joel Senior's come in?
Absolutely, I think he's made a difference.
He's suddenly got pressure for his place.
It can't be underestimated we go back to it again, but the recruitment this summer was so poor. We know that what it was. Obviously, Mellow's part of that, but he came in at the very end to fill a gap left by George Tanner leaving. In terms of competition, we have not had enough competition for places. And now you look at it, and I think Millen's touched on it in his interview today with the press. We don't need just bodies in the door anymore now. We're looking at bringing quality in to really challenge for places in the team, aren't we? And obviously Joel Senior must be that. He must be a player who's done really well at National League level. And as a result, Kelvin stepped up his game as well, hasn't he? He's been fantastic. Really, really good performance. I was really impressed.
And again, talking about likes of Amatoy, running ragged, if we're going to have two good fullbacks, you could have the same. If you've got a fullback who can get up and down for 65, 70, and then you bring another one on for the last 20 in injury time, the opposite number is going to think, oh, Christ, not another one. So, I'm talking about how we can switch things up and change things. It's it just shows that we're going to have a little bit of mix it up.
Well, I did go. I went on the fans forum bit with Lummy after the game on Saturday, and Matt Newsom obviously was doing the commentary. Really, really good commentary. If you can listen back to it, really exciting.
Yeah, he got some just going off topic. Matt Newsom got some excellent reviews from a few.
Yeah, he's a very good. I mean, he does the rugby league commentary for Five Live, so he's clearly a good commentator. But I did think it was funny when Paul mentioned, you used to do stuff down at Holker Street back in the day, didn't you? You used to be a Barrow commentator. He's like, yeah. He didn't say it like he was enthusiastic about it in the slightest. So clearly that long drive down the A590 wasn't an enjoyable one for him at times. But no, Lummy did say also he had there were a few fans texting saying, why didn't you just bring on Joel Senior for the last 20 minutes, something like that? And as Lummy made the right point, we're only 1-0 up at that point. You don't want to disrupt the defence, and people, you're not going to give people game time just for the sake of it. Yeah, if you maybe 3 or 4 up, you might do just to give Kelvin a rest or something. But in that situation, Senior's going to have to earn his place just as much as Miller has to earn his place. So, but yeah, you're right. In games when we start getting leads and building up in games,
I'm glad you've mentioned that, because that's going to bring on one little point that I know we haven't got in our notes.
Go on.
And use of substitutions to wind the clock down.
Yeah.
There's a couple of times where we've been holding on and we haven't made subs, and I can see why, but at the same time, it just, even if it's into injury time, do it,
I wonder if that might start again though once we get the Tuesday night games back. I wonder
possibly
if a few of those players on the bench are maybe the ones who've had COVID, and he's just let's ease them back in. I don't want to throw them in for the sake of it.
I'm talking, when we got the second and the game was done, just see it out by wasting 2 lots of 30 seconds.
Possibly, yeah.
Oh,
there you go. He's quite picky on his subs, clearly, Millen. Yeah. But that's the way it is. Just a few other little points before we get onto the preview sections, Dan. Maybe still lacking a little bit of creativity in midfield. That midfield of Whelan and Guy, they're decent, they're hard working, and they'll get about the pitch, but it's not. They're not going to be. I know Guy played that crossfield pass obviously for the first goal, but they're not playing your defence splitting passes, are they? They're not doing that sort of thing. They're industrious. I think that's the way you describe it, isn't it?
I don't think Whelan's ever going to be spraying it about, is he?
No.
He's defensive minded. Guy, he's coming back into form. I think it might more come, especially when he's got the likes of Gibson on form, Dickinson looking a bit better, Patrick looking lively.
Yeah.
I
suppose you've got Clough who can do that.
I was just going to say, Clough and Alexandra are coming back in, into the mix. They're going to be used because of the run of games coming up.
And you kind of hope maybe that someone like Clough might benefit from playing in a team that's in a bit of form, maybe. Because he hasn't looked happy, has he, really? He hasn't looked sound.
No.
He's been playing in teams that are poor, and he's been a part of that, no doubt on that. But maybe coming into a team that's actually getting results and playing well.
The big conundrum is he would likely play where Mellish has played.
Yeah, possibly. Maybe you play him in different games. Maybe that's the way you do it. I don't know. But fantastic. Just a few of the little points about in there. I mean, you mentioned Jack Arm already, so we won't cover that one. But I thought, once again, Mark Howard, excellent in nets, and just how important it is to get him tied down to the end of the season. Yeah. Brilliant how he did. And actually, again, someone who didn't really do anything that flashy or exciting, but Brendan Dickinson worked his socks off again, and he's got competition now there with Patrick coming in, and he wins a hell of a lot in the air for somebody who's not actually that tall, doesn't he? We target him a lot with the kicks, so yeah. Overall, I don't think anyone had a poor game in this match, and good solid performance, good 3 points. we move on to the next week. And
more of the same, please.
Yeah, indeed. And we'll be covering that in just a sec. We'll be back with the preview of the Crawley and the Hartlepool games. I'm going to have to leave this bit in here, right? This is the bit where I should be being professional and carried on. But my cat wants out of the room, so I've got to go and open the door to let the cat out. Little Monty's going to be let out, so I'll be back in just a sec. And I'm back. I did pause it there, actually, the recording. So there you go. So Monty's
you never did, you?
Yeah, no.
Did you pause it? Oh. I've just done a commentary.
Have you? Oh, well, there you go. Sorry,
the people are going to hear it.
People are not going to hear the commentary. I do apologise.
Rooney out.
There you go. Rooney out indeed. So there you go. Monty's out the room. We'll carry on. So yeah, second half of the show. Just remember, everyone, you can subscribe to the podcast on all good podcast apps. Acast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you can give us a review on there, it'd be brilliant. We've had another 5-star review in today, the other day, which was really fantastic to see.
What name did you put it under this week?
which family member have I got to do that? Who knows? My brother's not even done it yet. He doesn't even listen on Apple or anything like that. So Blaine, if you're listening, get signed up to one of them and give us a review. In fact, don't actually, because I know exactly what kind of review you'll give.
Yeah.
Remember, you can follow us on social media as well, at Brunton Bugle on Twitter, the Facebook page. Just search for Brunton Bugle. I will update it sometime soon. I keep forgetting to do it. I'm bad
I
for
did
that.
remind him this week.
Yes,
folks.
you did, to be fair, you did. You can find us on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group. We're also on the Cumbrians.net message board. And you can email us the old-fashioned way, the Cumbrians at... Sorry, not the Cumbrians, that's the wrong one. That's the one. bruntonbugle@gmail.com. to be precise. Just a reminder as well that this season, the second half of the show has been sponsored by the Carl United Supporters Club London branch. The London branch is open to all Carl United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore, and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips, as well as arranging many social events and supporters games and doing fundraising for the club. They'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section of season 2. You can find out more about London Branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. There you go. That's the sponsor bit out of the way. We're not going to have a catch up with the opposition section this week. Just haven't had time to arrange anything, to be brutally honest. And we couldn't find a Crawley podcast. The last one, last season.
I found 2. One of them hasn't had an episode in over a year, and the other one was about 3 years old.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Their social media wasn't very active, so.
Well, that's fair enough.
I couldn't find the Hartlepool one.
There was an official Hartlepool one, but early in the season we got a Hartlepool fan off Twitter to just do it, and I just didn't have time to arrange another one this time.
Yeah.
We will be back next week though with a vengeance, because we'll be talking to our good friends from across the pond, the guys from Heaven's Devils podcast, the Forest Green Rovers USA podcast.
Ahead of our trip to Forest Green, which we're both going on, aren't we?
Indeed we are, yeah. I'm going to be driving you down from Warrington. You're getting the train down, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm jumping on the train to Warrington, and Mr. Rooney will be waiting for me.
Indeed. We'll do some recordings while we're down there and stuff like that, and give you a little bit of a feel for what the trip's like as well.
Maybe do a food review or something.
Well, none of that vegan rubbish, I hope. But no, yeah, so we'll be doing that next week. Might be the last chance we get to talk to those guys, actually, because Forest Green are absolutely flying.
They're going up, aren't they?
I mean, they're going up. Tranmere look like they're going up now. They've signed Kane Hemmings from
Tranmere. We were just saying, when did Tranmere go second? You know, they've just.
Well, the thing is, they've barely conceded a goal all season. They've
barely scored a goal.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, they've been winning games 1-0 all the time. That's the thing. And they won 4-0 the other day against. Was it against Salford? I think it was. And they're really starting to fly now. And obviously, signing Kane Hemmings is a big signing from Burton Albion there. Kane Hemmings, interestingly, is the son of Tony Hemmings, former United player. So there you go. Yeah. Right, let's talk about the Crawley game then, Dan. First up, referee for this game, Darren Bond from Lancashire. It's his 10th season as EFL referee. For the last 4 or 5 seasons, he's actually been in the select group 2, mostly taking charge of championship fixtures. This is actually only the 3rd game he's taken charge of this season. Incredibly, he's only taken charge. He took charge of an EFL Cup game in August, and then the next game he didn't take charge of was a League One game this weekend. I think it was Doncaster against Fleetwood. I think it was. So I think basically he's been
injured or something.
Yeah, I think essentially he's working his way back to fitness before he goes back to refereeing championship games. Hence why he's getting League One and League Two games basically. So yeah, he's had 10 yellow cards in those 2 games he's took charge of those. So certainly likes to hand the cards out, doesn't he? He last took charge of the United game though in August 2017, the 2-1 home defeat to Sunderland in the League Cup. I remember coming away from that game because they were a championship side then, weren't they? I think they'd just been relegated from the Premier League, possibly, Sunderland. I remember coming out thinking, I might go and put some money on them to go down there with that bad Sunderland. I didn't in the end, which is frustrating because they did go down and they were awful.
They did.
Absolutely dreadful. That game, I think, features on the Sunderland Till I Die thing, doesn't it? Although they caption it wrong. They say it's away at Bury in the Cup. So they completely arsed it up, but there you go. Yeah, head-to-head record. Only played them 19 times, the Red Devils.
It's a very good one, though, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty good. 10 wins, 6 draws, and 3 Crawley wins. Only one of those wins has come at Brunton Park, which was the second time they visited. The first time they visited as an EFL club. So yeah, that's maybe a good omen, maybe a bad omen. I don't know. But obviously they only picked up their 3rd win against us early this season in the game down at the Broadfield Stadium. Last season they finished 12th. This season they're 12th on 31 points. The 7 positions and 6 points ahead of United, haven't played a game less.
If you asked Alexa to give you a mid-table League 2 team, she would probably reply Crawley Town.
Yeah, which is weird because despite my best efforts, I've been predicting them to go down for I think about the 4 or 5 seasons in a row now, I think. And they're never down there. And I think this might be the first season I haven't, because I'm just like, well, Scunthorpe and Oldham and Rochester, that much of a mess. It made no sense to go for Crawley.
Bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're dropping like a stone. Zanzala gone there. Obviously, we'll touch on that.
Been telling everyone for weeks.
But there you go. Their manager is a man that I think everybody knows about, despite the fact that he's not really had much of a career as a player. Everyone knows about him now because he's a social media sensation for his post-match interviews. It's John Yems.
Yeah.
Appointed as manager in December 2019. He's got a contract now until June 2023. Previously, he's only managed Horsham and Crawley as a caretaker. I think he only ever played as a professional or semi-professional for Horsham for a couple of games as player manager, as an emergency centre-back back in the day. Because he was, as a youth, I think he went around like Palace and Spurs and Millwall. But he basically, I think he got quite a bad injury when he was young, so he never really made it as a player.
But just always been in the game.
Yeah, he's done a lot of coaching, a lot of different roles. Like at Bournemouth, he was head of football operations for a while. He's done scouting for Newcastle and a few other clubs. And he got his chance as manager at Crawley for the second time, having been caretaker a few years back. And you know what? He's one of those ones you look and think, that's a weird, that's an appointment that says disaster written all over it. But he's done well. He's kept them as a solid League Two side, hasn't he? And, you know, now you probably say they never really look that much in danger. They seem to pick quite a few players who get let go by the sort of South Coast clubs, doesn't he? Like your Brightons and your Southamptons and clubs like that, and really do build a decent setup there, to be fair. And you know, it's one of those things that you'd think maybe they'd be able to get bigger crowds because there's plenty of people living around there. I suppose a lot of them go to Brighton and Palace, don't they? From there, I guess, from Crawley. So that's John Yems. He's their manager. The last time they won 1-0 away at Northampton. That's a big result for them, isn't it? I think it's fair to say.
Considering Northampton about 3rd or 4th, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, fantastic result. Tom Nichols scoring the goal in that game. He's a player I've always really liked. He's one of those ones you'd love to see him with us. Never going to leave down south, is he? He's always going to play for clubs down south. No. But, decent little player he is. In terms of overall form, they are below United in the form table because United are 5th in the form table for the last 6 games now.
We're flying.
Absolutely flying. And all the clubs above us are like...
Playoff charges on.
Yeah, Forest Green, Tranmere, Mansfield, and all the clubs that are up in the playoffs and promotion. So there you go. They're 8th in the last 6 games form table. Their record is drawn, lost, drawn, and 3 wins in a row, like United, basically. Looking through the squad, Dan, it doesn't really, I mean, I always forget who the good players are in League 2 these days because I've got conditioned to League 1 for so long. Even though we've been at this level for 7 years, I still find it hard to work out who's actually decent at this level.
And they move about so much these days, don't they?
But I mean, look at the squad.
Just slightly off topic, I was having this conversation with a pal the other day, and we're like, when I first started watching games, players would have a 15-year career at 3 clubs.
Yeah.
Now, by the time they're 25, they've played for 10.
Mm.
You know, because they're usually at a big club. They go out on loan and they work down the leagues and, you know, but anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, looking through the squad, Dan, I mean, any players that stand out to you in there particularly? I mean, Glenn Morris is an experienced campaigner in net, isn't he? Is he, 39 now or something like that, I think?
Yeah, he's been around years, Glenn Morris, and he's one of those. He's not the tallest, but he's a solid keeper at this level. You know?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those ones where they probably
obviously the obvious one that we all notice is Naddison, isn't it?
Yeah, as a former player, but he's not quite done as well there as you might have expected, especially considering he's back home. It's a strange run, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's not. I mean, the way he played for us, maybe we were just lucky and got him in a purple patch.
I think he plays more wider for Crawley.
He played wide a bit for us, though. He drifted out wide, didn't he? It's an interesting one, but he just doesn't. Maybe he's just not having as good a players around him. Possibly, I don't know. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. He's one that stands out. I mean, in defence for me, Tony Craig and Joel Lynch. That's a decent centre back pairing, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, Craig was Millwall, wasn't he?
Yeah, for a long time he was at Millwall, wasn't he? He was a real proper legend there. And Joel Lynch, he was at Sunderland for a bit, wasn't he? I think, and a few of the big clubs. I seem to remember. Yeah, I mean, looking for George.
A lad I know from London is related to Reece Grigor Cox.
Mm.
There's a random link for you.
Yeah, good little link there. Couple of lads on loan from Southampton who may be decent players. I think Caleb Watts actually played at the Olympics last year with Australia. Good enough. Who's on loan from Southampton?
You'd think where they're located, they're probably they should be getting one from the likes of Southampton, Bournemouth and Brighton, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe even Crystal Palace, etc.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It depends. If they're better players, they don't really want to send them to League Two clubs. That's the only problem, isn't it, I guess? But
yeah.
Early on, maybe you should be getting more of them. And obviously, you mentioned Tom Nichols up front. He's another one who's always been decent. But yeah, it's a big squad there, actually. When you look at it, there's a lot of players in there. So there must be, I don't know if they've got like a development squad in the way that, you know, Scunthorpe have with a lot of young players in there. But
yeah,
it's quite a big squad. In terms of some of the news involved them lately, plenty of activity already at their ground in the January transfer window. Arriving at the club, we mentioned already, Australian midfielder Caleb Watts is joined on loan from Southampton, and former Burgess Town Hill keeper Taylor Seymour. I think he also had a spell at Portsmouth, did Seymour, arrived on a free transfer, while Tom Dallison has joined Colchester United on a 2.5-year deal for an undisclosed fee. I mean, and that'd be funny, he's not a player who I'd really heard of as like a star defender at this level. So Colchester shelling out money to sign him on a near enough 3-year deal.
Colchester have got a massive game on Saturday because of the host Barrow, don't they?
That's a big game because those two are right down there now, aren't they?
Come on, Colchester. Come on.
As I mentioned, obviously Joel Lynch before, but he was only on a short-term deal to the start of the year, and he's actually extended that now, and he's agreed an 18-month contract with the clubs. That's a big signing for them, especially. And on loan QPR midfielder Amit Bansal McNulty. That's a hell of a name, that, isn't it?
That's a belting name, isn't it?
I think he's part, because I think I looked at his full name and one of his middle names is Patrick. So I think he's obviously mixed race, but he's got a bit of Irish in there, especially, and a bit of Asian heritage too. So there you go. He's returned to his parent club QPR after his loan spell. So it's one of those games. Interesting one. You'd look at it and think you think a good chance to get 3 points, but actually out of the two games of this and Hartlepool, probably the tougher game based on form, isn't it?
Yeah, Hartlepool are also not jumping ahead too much, but they've got their eye on the cup as well at the moment. So.
Yeah,
but it's yes, because they've won the last 3. But if we're serious about climbing the league, we've got to win this.
I mean. From past experience, they never really turn up at Brunton Park. I mean, last season especially, they were awful, and the season before that as well.
Jumping ahead again, if you were offered 4 points from the 2 games, you'd say thanks very much.
Yeah, definitely.
Just because we know that 4 points will probably take us another couple of places up the league.
Yeah.
But we should be looking for 2 wins from these 2.
Yeah, we should be aiming to make it 5 wins in a row and really build a bit of confidence up and basically go into that Forest Green game. And it'll be battle of the 2 best teams on form in the division, basically.
The Forest Green game is a gimme for us because the Forest Green are going to walk the league, and we're not expected to get anything. Anything we do get is a bonus.
Yeah.
So,
And then obviously the week after that, you've got Sutton. And Sutton, I mean, they're having a hell of a first season in the league, aren't they? I don't think anyone expected them to be right up there.
They haven't been up here before, though, have they?
No, that'll be an interesting test for them, certainly, I think it's fair to say. I mean, we might as well talk about United now, because this is the first game. This is one where we'll know about the lineups and stuff. In terms of injuries, both Clough and Alessandra closing in on a return. Toure and Jensen. Go on, sorry.
Sorry, just Clough and Alessandra played an hour of an in-house 11-a-side game on midweek. I think basically what Millen said was they're both back training, they're both playing, but they're not quite there. They certainly wouldn't be fit to start, but we may see them on the bench. And
you do wonder if Alessandra might benefit from Patrick being back as well, because they linked so well as well, didn't they, when he was at the club?
As I've said before, I'm a fan of Alessandra. I think he's an excellent. I don't think he's a starter now.
No,
but I think he's an excellent player to bring on for 15 minutes when you're trying to close a game out.
Yeah,
because he's got his knowledge. He can hold the ball up and he sees things. And I think I'd like to think both have still got a role to play. You know, I mean, as we alluded to earlier, Clough will maybe settle better now. We're playing a bit better.
Yeah, and I think Clough's going to be a lot harder to get rid of, isn't he, because of his wage as much as anything.
Yeah.
And his injury record, the people are not going to touch him in that same way. That maybe someone like Abraham's in it.
It's a shame Beach didn't get the Fleetwood job, because he would have took him, wouldn't he?
He probably would have done. That's probably fair to say. So, I mean, injury-wise, we think only Toure and... I say Jensen. Is Jensen still on our books? No one seems to know.
Does anyone know?
I know he went back to Burnley when he got his injury, didn't he? Because he got his injury playing in that.
He did actually play a game for Burnley under 23s, didn't he?
I think that's where he got the injury. I think that's what they're saying. It's a weird one, that one.
But the way there was when Howard signed his contract, Millen mentioned about Howard and he wants Norman to push him, and he basically said they're my two keepers. So. It's never been announced, but it wouldn't be a surprise if by the end of the month it was announced that he's gone back.
Yeah, maybe
because he's not going to play now, is he?
And stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah,
but there you go. So I mean,
Burnley are flush anyway. They've just got 20 million for Chris Wood.
Hey, they certainly have. That's incredible, isn't it? That shows the difference in the way football's run, doesn't it? £20 million for a 30-year-old who's got 4 goals this season.
I know we're going off topic, but I like Chris Wood as a player.
Oh, I do.
He's in double figures for 4 seasons in a row. There's strikers at big clubs aren't.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Yes. Anyway, we won't do match predictions until we've done the Hartlepool one, because Mike's given me both at once. I think. Got to stick with the same 11 surely from the Bradford game. Yeah.
People will push for Patrick, but you've got to remember he hasn't played much football. Yeah. He'd probably be better coming off the bench initially, and he'll maybe start the second game. And
I don't think it'd be fair on Matoy, would it, to bring him in for one game and then drop him for the second game?
No, especially after he's got man of the match and a standing ovation when he's went off. So
yeah.
No, like we said after the other wins, you don't change your winning team unless you have to.
Nope, definitely not. Right, let's move on to the Hartlepool game then, Dan. Referee for this one, Ollie Yates from Staffordshire. It's his 6th season as an EFL referee. He's taken charge of 13 games this season so far, handing out 48 bookings and 2 red cards. And he last took charge of the United game for the 3-0 defeat at Northampton earlier this season. Obviously, Keith Millen's first game in charge.
That's quite a quick turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah, quite a quick turnaround. I mean, gave a very dodgy penalty that day, I think it's fair to say, against Jack Armour.
Yeah.
Didn't look like
he can horse one for that, can't he?
Yeah, although I do think it was...
If on the off chance he's listening.
I think it might have been the linesman that gave that one, to be fair as well.
Yeah.
Head-to-head record, obviously, I think we've said this before, I think Hartlepool might be the team we've played the second most times in our history. I'm not sure if they're top or second. Possibly.
You know something, I'll have a look for next week and we'll go through it.
Definitely. 105 times we've played them in our history. 50 wins to United. 18 draws and 37 pools wins. So, again, another one where we're on top, which is nice to see. Last season, obviously, they weren't in the Football League. They finished 4th in the National League and promoted via the playoffs in a fairly balmy National League playoff final, wasn't it? It was just a ridiculous game.
It was a great game to watch, wasn't it?
Oh, terrific. I mean, the goalkeeper's goal late on really did make it exciting. I mean, ridiculous decision by the National League officials to play the final at Bristol City, though. I mean, just bizarre. Why wouldn't you find somewhere in the Midlands to play it?
I think it was all to do with availability, etc. And
maybe I guess so. Maybe it's just it was a very, very weird choice, in my opinion. But there you go. Currently, they're 16th on 28 points. I mean, a lot of people got excited about how they started the season, didn't they? But they dropped off massively, especially when Challoner basically had his head turned, and obviously he's now gone to Stockport County.
Is it also as well the fatigue factor because their season finished so late, which we mentioned in the season preview?
And they've not got the biggest squad. I don't think they've had the biggest squad for most of this season. So they're only just 3 positions and 3 points ahead of United now. So if we match their result the weekend, potentially we could actually go ahead of them. Especially, I think, goal difference-wise, we're minus 11. I think they're minus 10. So basically, if we win at one level, we go ahead of them. So chance to usurp them now. Manager, obviously, at the start of the season, it was Dave Challoner. He did an incredible job getting them into the Football League. But he left to go back to the National League with Moneybag Stockport County, and he was replaced by Graham Lee. He was appointed on December 2021, and his contract is until June 2024. Interesting, that one. He's been given like a 2.5-year deal. Millen only gets 18 months with us. So there you go. Maybe long-term thinking going on there from Hartlepool. Previously, he's only managed Middlesbrough under 23s. As a player, though, he began his player as a player with Pools. I always remember him being a really tough centre-back playing against us. He was always one of those players you looked to think he wouldn't be a bad player to have.
Type.
Yeah, absolutely. He made 225 appearances at Victoria Park. His career then took him to Sheffield Wednesday, Doncaster Rovers. He returned to Hartlepool on loan and Shrewsbury Town on loan, Bradford City, Notts County, Darlington. Then he finished his career in Carlisle at Celtic Nation of all clubs. He must have been getting paid a fair whack there, mustn't he, to be playing for them.
That's when they were chucking wages of several £100s.
Was it Willie Gibson and Peter Murphy and John Paul McGovern and Colin McMenamin? Was he there as well? McMenamin, that's the one. So yeah, he was there. That's where he was. He assisted by former Pools player Mickey Nelson with former Bluesman Anthony Sweeney as first team coach.
Speaking of no-nonsense players, Nelson was another no-nonsense.
Oh, he certainly was, yeah. Them two centre-backs, they were...
He was one of those players I always fancied us signing at some point, and it never happened.
I think both of them. I think you both looked at them before.
Did he go to Norwich in the end, Nelson?
I think he did possibly, yeah. He definitely went to a club that possibly played in the top flight. I don't know if he played there himself.
No, but I think maybe in the Championship years. Or...
Yeah, and also at the club in their staff there is Paul Simpson's son, Jake. He's head of performance there. So there you go. I think that's basically it's more like the... sports science role, isn't it, essentially? That's what he does, Jake, I think, all that stuff. Last time out, they got a really impressive victory last time, actually, didn't they? Beat Championship side Blackpool 2-1 in the FA Cup. And that's earned them a 4th round trip to Premier League side Crystal Palace. Oh, I'd love a trip to Crystal Palace. I've never been to Selhurst Park. I'd want to tick it off.
I've been once. I've got a couple of good mates who are Palace season ticket holders. It's a mishmash of a ground.
Oh, get yourself down there for the game and then pop to Crystals afterwards for a night out, can't you? Yeah, the nightclub. There you go. For those who don't know, there actually is a nightclub built into Selhurst Park, isn't there, called Crystals. You can imagine the kind of nightclub the place called Crystals is, and that's probably it, isn't it? I think it's fair to say. Form-wise, they sit 19th in the last 6 games form table in the league. I mean, not great form they're in. They record is lost, one, drawn. So only 1 win in the last 6. In terms of their squad, Dan, plenty of ex-Carlisle players in there, isn't there?
There's a few.
Yeah, obviously Gary Liddell is there. I don't think he's captain, is he? I'm not sure who he's captain actually at Hartlepool United, but Liddell's finishing his career there by the looks of things, having started off. Well, he didn't start off there, did he? He started at Middlesbrough. But he started his sort of professional gig because I don't think he played a game for Middlesbrough back at Hartlepool. And, fair play. He's doing fantastically there. He's one of those ones I just think we should have kept, really, when he went. I think he's good. It might have been a case of him leaving, I suppose, wanting to go. But I thought he was a terrific player. I think really,
he is from over there, though, isn't he? So.
He is, that's true, yep. But yeah, I mean, you looking in the squad, I mean, the 2 standout players and the players who did really well against us in the game earlier this season, the 2 wing-backs, aren't they? Jamie Sterry and I think it's David Ferguson. Ferguson played in the Scottish leagues, I think, early in his career. I seem to remember. Not exactly sure where. You probably remember better than me. But
I can't think off the top of my head.
I mean, Sterry's one. I was going to say Sterry's one who's a lot of bigger clubs have been looking at, haven't they? Really, I think he's a really impressive player. signed a new contract with them, which I think surprised some of their fans, actually. I think a lot of them thought he was going to leave. But here you go. I'm getting David Ferguson up.
Insurance fee, so they get a transfer fee for him.
I don't know why I thought David Ferguson had played it in Scotland, because he hadn't. He started out at Darlington, went to Sunderland. He's from Sunderland. Yeah. He's played at Blackpool. That Blackpool's the club I was thinking he was at. He played at Blackpool, Shildon, Darlington, York City, and he's basically worked his way back into the Football League with Hartlepool. He's done really well for himself, to be fair. But yeah, he's a really impressive player. He did really well in the game against them earlier this season. Other ex-United players, he wasn't a one-game wonder. Was he a two-game wonder, Martin Smith? I always forget.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I think he played 2 games. He was on loan from Sunderland and didn't do anything really, I think it's fair to say. And obviously in attack, you've got 3 others. You've got Mark Cullen, Jordan Cook, and Olafelo Olamola.
Jordan Cook has hardly featured, has he?
I think he's had an injury. I think that's why. I think that's where they're waiting to see what happens with his current injury. So he's had a bit of bad luck there, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. Cullen's got the odd goal though, hasn't he?
He's been chipping in with a few, especially in the FA Cup. He's played a big part in their run, I think, hasn't he? He got I think he got a winner against Wycombe Wanderers, I think, in their second round game.
He never had a chance here because he came when he was injured and he just couldn't shake it off. And
it was a bit of when you look back at it, it was a bit of a silly signing when you're trying to push for a player to sign a player who essentially needed probably a month and a half to get fit, and we tried throwing him in and he got injured again, didn't he? I think so. So yeah, not great. I think it's fair to say his time with Carlisle, but he's certainly doing well when he's been at Hartlepool. Some other good players there. Nicky Featherstone is one who's always been a good quality midfielder.
Yeah.
Houlihan as well. Gavin Houlihan, that is obviously. He scored a belting goal against us earlier this season too.
Mind you, Wes Houlihan ran the game against Newcastle for Cambridge.
Didn't he? 39 years old.
39-year-old and running the show.
One of those great regrets, isn't it, that Roddy couldn't persuade him to come from Shelbourne to us back in the day. Very close that was to happening, wasn't it? Talk about a little bit of Hartlepool news. I mean, like United, like Crawley, they've made some early moves in the January transfer window.
Including one that we looked at.
Indeed, yeah. So the first up, they've signed Rotherham United's 6'6" centre-back, Jake Hull, on loan for the rest of the season. He looks at quite an imposing player. I mean, just to see how he does. Rotherham have got a good youth set up there, haven't they? So you'd imagine he'd be a decent player. And the other signings you mentioned there is striker Marcus Carver. Reportedly a player United had a look at, but basically decided wasn't quite up to it, didn't they?
What I am told, I've got someone who knows Carver very well. A mate of mine knows him very well. And what I'm told is there was a bit of scouting and maybe a general inquiry, but it wasn't really progressed, and it was Barrow and Hartlepool who went in, and he made the right decision going to Hartlepool, in my opinion.
You're just determined to win your bet on Barrow going down, aren't you? You'll say anything you want to see for that to come in. Get them back on medium wave. I'm being a bit facetious there, or am I?
No.
Yeah, so he signed on a permanent transfer for an undisclosed fee from National League Northside Southport. Scored a few goals for the season, so he's maybe one of those players a bit of a gamble could turn out for them.
He's 28-year-old though.
Yeah, he's not young. That's the thing.
And what my mate also says is he will run all day. He's got a traction engine in him. He just runs and runs and runs. He'll chase every last cause. Fans love him because he tries, but whether he's up to scoring goals in League Two, maybe not. But
sounds very Craig Curtis, doesn't he? Really, player who run his heart out, but maybe he's not going to be the player who's going to score the goals. But there you go. But the only other thing I really picked up on is the fact that they're having some real success in cup competitions this season. The one we don't talk about, they're into the quarterfinals of that. Thankfully, we're not. We're out. It was incredible to say it, but we're quite pleased that we've been knocked out of the competition. And in the FA Cup, as we mentioned there before, they're into the 4th round, and they've beat League One and Championship clubs already in the competition this season. So they're having a really, really decent return to the Football League, aren't they? I don't think they're in any danger of going down this season. I think they've probably got enough.
I think they'll have enough to keep out of it.
So there you go. Well, anything else you want to talk about in terms of Hartlepool, Dan, or is that enough, do you think?
No, the once hung a monkey on the beach, but everyone knows that.
Yes, everybody knows that. Yeah, that's the interesting fact about Hartlepool. They mistook him for a French spy, which maybe tells you all you need to know about the early 19th century education standards of the North East.
20th century.
Wasn't that late? It was Napoleon it was, wasn't it? I think that's right. What it was. like early 1800s, I think it was. But there you go. Either way, it's not got any better.
Still feels like those times when you walk the streets.
Indeed. Well, let's do the match predictions then. Predictions for both games. You can go first, and I've got Mike's predictions to queue up.
Right, I'm going to go for a 3-0 win twice against Crawley and Hartlepool. We're storming to the playoffs. You can get 50-1 for promotion. Let's all lump on and have a party when it happens. Goal scorers, I want to go for Omatoy, Gibson, and Callum Guy's due a goal, innit? And then on the Tuesday night, I'll go for Feeney to get one from a corner, seeing as we talked about it. Patrick and Patrick 2, a double, sorry.
Well, there you go.
And then he'll come into the starting 11 after that.
Well, here's Mike's predictions, and I'm hoping he's put Crawley and Hartlepool in here, because I just asking for predictions and I didn't actually tell him both, so let's hope he's done both.
I'm going to predict a 2-0 win with Mellish and Omatoy both getting on the score sheet.
So yeah, he's only done the Crawley one. So let's say he's going to predict that score for both the games. For God's sake. Not very well organised, are we? My predictions, I'm going to go for a 3-0 win over Crawley as well, Dan. I think there'll be goals from Morgan Feeney. Who else? Brennan Dickinson and Mellish will get the other one. And then I think a 2-1 win over Hartlepool, because I think Mark Cullen's going to score in that game. And I reckon goals from Patrick and the Fish as a late sub. He's going to come on and get his first goal. He's going to be the winner. And he's going to celebrate in front of the Hartlepool fans. So that's predictions for the game. We've got a question of the week. We did one last week. You gave us it, Dan, and it stumped me and Mike
we should have done this earlier so we could have a think about it.
We should have done, shouldn't we? But so Mike's done the question for this week. He's not given me an audio answer. He's given me a link, so I'll have to click on it once we've both had a go at it. But here we go. So this is Mike's question of the week.
So, as you remember, we had that awful trip down to Crawley in 2014, where we got that horrible 0-0 draw that saw us all but relegated. Who played for us that night?
He wants us to name the whole bloody 11.
The whole team?
The fist. By looks of
David
things,
Simonson did.
Yeah, because he had a brilliant game on the right wing and then got stuck on the right back for the last 20 minutes and didn't do anything. Well, let's work this logically. So I think goalkeeper was... I think Gillespie was back by then, wasn't he? I seem to remember. Or was it Pickford still? I think it was Pickford, actually, wasn't it, possibly? Let's go Jordan Pickford in goal. Yeah, because actually Gillespie was on the bench on the last day against Wolves. Jordan Pickford in goal. Right back... would it be Connor Brown then, maybe? Or Reece Brown, one of the two? Let's go Reece Brown right back. Left back, Matty Robson. Centre backs, Sean O'Hanlon and who else would play centre back? Chimbonda. Midfield, Simonton was on the right. Who's going to be on the left? Sam Byrne played in that game, I seem to remember, because it just gets me angry thinking about that man.
Did he not come off the bench?
Possibly. Maybe Sam Byrne came off the bench. Brad Potts, he'll have played in that game.
Brad Potts, yeah. Liam Noble still with us then?
Yeah, Liam Noble would have been said. Liam Noble and...
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Barrett played in that game or he was on the bench, maybe. We'll go with Barrett and Simonton. I'm trying to think who else we had on loan back then. We had a few players, didn't we? Medine didn't play in that game for obvious reasons because he was sat at home on his tag.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be.
Did we say Sean O'Hanlon?
Yeah, O'Hanlon at centre back alongside Chimbonda.
Yeah.
I went with.
Chris Chandler, was he around then?
I don't know if he'd gone by then, maybe. I think he might have left by then because Robson was left back, wasn't he? For that most of that season. And I've obviously said it.
Trying to think who'd be up front.
That's the bit I'm struggling with. Sam Byrne, you reckon, came off the bench?
I'm sure Byrne
Miller?
came off the bench.
Miller up front?
No, I think he not gone by then.
No, he was still there. He left at the end of that season. I think it was because he basically he had that contract extension thing, didn't he? and he basically said, "I'll
tell you
waive it."
who we did have that season, but he definitely didn't play in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It won't have been Nacho Novo.
No, because he played 2 games and he was gone then.
Yeah.
So I think it was Miller up front.
I think we've named about 13 players here, by the way.
Mark Beck, I think. So we'll go with that team. Though. So we're going to go with Pickford in nets, right back of Reece Brown. I think I might be wrong. I think he might have gone back.
No, we played 3 at the back because Simonton played wing back.
Are you sure? I'm sure he was a winger. I'm sure he was a right winger, and then he moved to right back.
I think he played wing back.
I'm trying to think.
Right.
Maybe it would have been because Brad Potts was in midfield by then, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have. Well, let's go with Reece Brown right back, centre backs, Chimbonda and
Hanlon and Chimbonda.
Right, left back was Matty Robson. Midfield, we think.
We said Noble and Potts.
Noble, Potts, maybe Barrett.
And Simonton.
I think someone played out position there on the left, possibly. And then up front, Lee Miller and Mark Beck. That's our guess, and we think Sam Burn might come on as a sub. So let me click open this link, Dan, and tell you what the lineup was for that game. Let me see. Where's this link that Mike has sent me? Okay. I mean, he could have actually just done it on the audio. The team that day: Jordan Pickford in nets. Brown played. I was right. Reece Brown.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have doubted you as well, though. Chris Chandler did play. He was left back instead of.
Did he?
Yeah. So it was Brown.
Well, I was umming and ahhing between Chandler and what was he called from Wigan? Redmond.
Redmond. He was midfielder, wasn't he? He was more centre midfielder, I seem to remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically it was Symington on the right wing. So Pickford in nets, Chandler left back. Brown right back at the start, and then O'Hanlon and Chimbonda in centre defence. Symington on the right wing. Your midfield was Symington on the right. It was more like a 5-man midfield actually when you look at it.
Can I just say something, Lee? You've been good reading teams out as an announcer.
Well, this is the problem because the lineup's complete. The BBC site has got the lineup completely wrong. It's got in terms of positions. So that's why I'm trying to do it properly. Your right wing was Symington, and then in midfield you had Potts, Barrett, Noble, David Amu. Yeah. Completely forgot about him, and Lewis Guy played up front.
Lewis Guy. Oh.
Lewis Guy, and then your subs were Sam Byrne, as you rightly mentioned. He came on for Chimbonda. Kyle Dempsey came on for Lewis Guy in that game, and Courtney Meppen-Walter came on in the 89th minute for Liam Noble. Managed to get booked in that time that he was on the pitch.
Good effort.
And the rest of your subs were Matty Robson was a sub, Greg Fleming, Danny Redmond, as you mentioned already. Did he play in Cyprus for a bit? I seem to remember. I'm sure he went to Cyprus, something like that. Also, you mentioned Byrne, Meppen-Walter and Dempsey, but also Pearson was the other band. What's up? James Pearson, Nigel's son. So there you go. That was the lineup. That was Mike, in future, if you're going to pick a quiz question, make it something that's only got 2 or 3 answers or something so we can get it done quickly. Unbelievable.
Although Danny Redmond did play in the Europa Conference League this season, as we said earlier in the year.
Yeah, he did. Okay, Dan, let's get on to the X-File section. I'm going to read this out this week because you're having a few technical issues, aren't you, I think, so far?
Yes, the file won't download for me.
This has been a bit of a nightmare, I think it's fair to say. X-File section, a little bit quiet on the goals and cards this week. A little bit busy on the other section, though. Some interesting ones in there that you spotted in particular. In terms of goals, we've got to start with this man, haven't we? The man we love to hate, Harry McCurdy. Scored in Swindon Town.
Scored the belter against Man City, didn't he?
Fair play, he did score a very good goal in this game.
And scored a very similar goal midweek as well, didn't he?
Didn't mean anything the midweek goal, though, did it? Neither did this one. They're both defeats.
No.
Yeah, Swindon Town's 4-1 FA Cup third round defeat to Manchester City. McCurdy scored the consolation goal in that game. He also scored in the midweek 3-2 league defeat to Mansfield Town. And he just signed a new contract with them this week, I think. A new 2-year deal with them. So he's doing all right. I mean, he's clearly found a club where he's happy and the fans seem to like him. How long that'll last?
Beloved Chelsea in that.
He's at beloved Chelsea, not Chelsea. Chelsea. It's going to be Chelsea, isn't it?
Yeah. You could see him going somewhere like Reading, couldn't you?
Possibly. Whether he's got the temperament for that level, I'm not convinced, but Maybe he'll prove us wrong. The man who seems to score quite a few goals this season, Angelo Balanta. He scored in Dagenham and Redbridge's 2-2 draw at Torquay United. Gavin Riley. He scored in Greenock Morton's 5-0 win over Dunfermline. He also was in the SPF.
Got into the Scottish,
Team of the Week. Fair play to him, Gavin.
Week, yeah.
Seems to be picking up a bit of form with Greenock at the moment. A couple of goal scorers for Gateshead in the 4-2 win over Bradford. Park Avenue in brackets there, because they're actually called Bradford. People don't realise that, do they? It's actually Bradford Football Club. They're called Bradford Park Avenue by a lot of people, but there you go. Adam Campbell and Kedwin Scott both scored again. Yeah, they're getting a decent season, the pair of them as well. And finally, Paddy Madden. He scored a penalty in Stockport County's 4-1 win at Altrincham. Other news.
Derby game, that.
Yeah, big derby indeed. Other news. I'll let you do this one, Dan. It's something you spotted. John Coleman gave me credit for it on Twitter, and I did have to correct them. It actually was you that pointed out to me. Interesting little spot, this one, isn't it?
Yeah. African Nations Cup is on at the moment. Oh. And a former left-back and from Chelsea, Kevin Wright, now plays for Sierra Leone, who drew 0-0 with Algeria, and he kept Riyad Mahrez in his back pocket all game. So
fantastic, wasn't it, really?
From Brunton Park to the AFCON.
No, he had a great game by all accounts, didn't he? And he's playing in the Swedish league now, I think, these days.
He's been playing in Sweden for about 5 seasons. I think he's in the 2nd division there.
Yeah, I think he started out.
He's been playing plenty of games.
I think when he left us, he went to a club in Norway, didn't he? And I think he's moved over to Sweden and he's played for a couple of clubs over there.
Yeah.
So he's doing pretty well for himself there. Well done to the lad. I mean, I think he'll be grateful he didn't play in that Tunisia Mali game the other night, though. What a fuss that was. Incredible. We think we've got bad referees in League 2. We should be grateful. We really should be sometimes. But yeah, well done to Kevin Wright. As Mike pointed out in our little WhatsApp chat, do you remember the days when his agent joined the message board to tell everyone how well he played in a behind closed door game against Oldham?
In a bounce game, yeah.
And how brilliant he was going to be for the club. Yeah. I think, didn't he deny he was his agent, but it was blatantly obvious it was. Yeah. Still not the maddest story about an agent and Carl United players, though, is it? With as I recall too. Yeah, the 2 Danish lads a few years ago. We'll talk about that one on maybe another game when we talk about trialists, because that agent, some stories about him. Ofrande Zenzala, he's left Barrow.
Gone to Exeter on loan.
Gone to Exeter City on loan for the rest of the season. I mean, Mark Cooper sort of dressed it up as he needs to get his confidence back, and it's a good move for him like that. That's what you used to do back in the day when you send a player for a couple of months or a month somewhere to get confidence. You don't send them on a half-season loan to a team in the same division, unless there's been a bit of a fallout there, do you?
I don't think he's the most popular player amongst the Barrow fan base, by all accounts.
No, and by all accounts, he's falling out with Mark Cooper is the rumour, isn't it? You've got to ask big questions if you're Zanzala about the fact that his last 3 clubs, he's only lasted 6 months at each of them. When does it come to a point where you have to think to yourself, maybe I need to actually rethink about what I'm doing here?
He reeks of National League next season, doesn't he?
National League, he'd probably score a few at that level, maybe get a big move and then struggle there probably. But it's one of those ones where you look and you think, maybe, how does a player like that not look to his agent and say, what are you doing to my career here?
Yeah.
I know in one sense you might look and it's a good move actually, because Exeter, up the league. But you're not settled. And if they bin you off after 6 months, or what happens when you go back to Barrow? They're not going to want to keep you, clearly. They're going to want to get your wage off the bill. So there was a few rumours he might be coming back to Brunton Park. And to be honest, if you gave me a choice of either him or Patrick coming back, I'd have said Patrick any day.
Yeah,
100%. 100%. Charlie Birch, he's left Annan Athletic after just 6 months to join Penrith.
Yeah.
Little bit of a drop down in standard, I think it's probably fair to say. He's probably just getting game time for him, isn't it? And rebuilding his career from that point.
He's been in and out at Annan. I think he only played 7 or 8 games, and Annan are actually on a great run of form at the moment. So.
I think he had quite strong competition at left back as well, didn't he? Whereas Charlie Barnes, who's been playing a lot for right back, hasn't he? He hasn't. I think his competition actually is Rowan Steele, who's also an
Steele, yeah.
So then he's having a really good season. Charlie Barnes, I think it's fair to say. Kyle Dempsey, there's a few clubs sniffing around him, isn't there, Dan?
Yeah, there's rumours Charlton, Bolton, a couple others. He didn't play for Gillingham at the weekend. So
I think he's been injured for a while, hasn't he, I think?
But I think the suggestion was he's not playing because of moves in the offing.
Yeah, I think that basically they realised they want to protect him.
They got hammered off Ipswich, and Steve Evans also left.
I think they're on the way down, aren't they, really? You got to look at them and you think, why didn't they let Stevenage talk to him and take the compensation? Because it clearly wasn't working there, was it? It was a strange move, that. Yeah.
And a late one that happened today. Former academy set-up keeper James Trafford of Man City has joined Bolton on loan.
Yeah, and obviously the very last bit here is Dean Henderson. He's apparently been told that he won't be leaving Manchester United either on loan or permanently in the January transfer window, and apparently he's not happy about that.
Yeah, because you can't blame him.
The rumour is he was promised he would start the FA Cup game against Villa.
Well, he was apparently ill in the run-up to it, and he only trained the Sunday, so they didn't want to risk him.
But the rumour is
he wasn't very happy. Interesting to see if he plays against Middlesbrough in the next round.
Yeah, that's the one that will stand out, wasn't it? If he's still there, presumably, if he doesn't get his way. But there you go, that's the X-Files section done, and that's this week's episode sorted. Thanks once again for joining me. Thanks once again to the London branch for sponsoring the pod this season. In terms of upcoming episodes, I mean, we'll obviously, Forest Green will be doing a preview for that. We'll do probably a little special episode after Forest Green as well of our little trip down and talking about what it's like as a day out at the world's first vegan football club. We'll do a little bit on that. We're going to try and get my CFC 11 one recorded in the next couple of weeks as well, aren't we? I think I've got a few days off next week, so we'll see what we can fit around each other, really, can't we? And get something recorded then. And that's it, I think, for this week's done. So thanks once again for joining me. Thanks everyone for listening. Really do appreciate it. And up the Blues.
Up the Blues.